All right. Well, welcome everybody back to Wild Warrior Nutrition. Today we have Matt Furhmann from Tao Health and Fitness. Matt, sorry it took us so long to get this going. I know we've been trying for a couple weeks, but Austin got crushed with some horribly cold weather.
Yes, it did. No worries, man. Yeah, it's been kind of wild around here. So, you
Are
know,
people, yeah. Are people in Texas ever prepared for the cold?
nah, I don't think so. I'm from up north in Indiana, and it's a different story down here when it gets cold, apparently. So,
Do you guys even have furnaces? I mean, does it ever get cold enough to
there's
need?
fireplaces,
Yeah.
but the pipes are not buried that low into the ground. Some people have mentioned that. I mentioned like, making sure to leave the faucet dripping and stuff, and some people are like, "Oh, I thought that was a myth," and I'm like, "No, that's a thing."
Yeah.
A lot of people had their pipes bust. A lot of places got flooded, so it's
Well, I
pretty wild.
hope you guys were okay. Was the gym all right?
The gym was good. Luckily no busting pipes there. The apartment complex that I live in, though, almost every building had at least one pipe bust.
Oh,
And several of them had the third floor pipe bust. So, you had water coming down and caving in ceilings and all that stuff for, 3 stories.
yeah. I
Pretty
apologize. My grandfather clock is going off. Can you hear that?
all good.
Okay. Yeah. Working from home creates some unique challenges. Hopefully we'll all go back to the office at some point, but
Yeah.
for now I got to live with the distractions. I did lock up the cats and the dog, and at least my kids are out of here, but
Yeah.
yeah, cool, man. Well, yeah, it's been a crazy year for you guys. How long were you guys closed?
Well, I mean, we were closed for quite a while, but I went immediately to online as soon as it got to where it was like, all right, people are starting to not come in as much. And then, we went into lockdown, and literally it was like day one of lockdown. I was just like, all right, we're going live online. Put all the students into a group page, that was private, and just started running live multiple times a day.
Did you retain a lot of your clients, or did a lot of your clients lose their jobs or bail because it wasn't in person?
A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, that tried to kind of hang on, they're still suffering money losses that even if they didn't lose their job. So we lost probably about half the students within the first probably like month of COVID.
Oh man, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully you guys
That
are recovering quickly.
Yeah, recovering. Taking it smooth and steady, but it's recovering. We've been doing a lot of stuff outside. As that seems to be the way to go right now.
Yeah. I had to relearn, even being in the fitness industry, I had to relearn how to train myself without the having an abundance of fitness modalities and tools around me as soon as the gym closed. And I made the mistake. It was like early February. I thought, well, man, I don't need any of this stuff anymore. And I sold all my kettlebells, my clubs,
Uh,
my battle ropes, everything to a guy on Craigslist who must have
yeah,
been able to see the future, because then within a
right.
couple of weeks, gyms were closed, and it was, how can you train your body weight and if that's all you got for the next 9 months?
Yeah, and that was the challenge of going online, because basically I got people that have lost jobs, people losing money, people trying to hold on and train and trying to help support the business, the school, and now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we're changing everything we've been doing. We're going strictly body weight, and yeah, you can totally just be like, all right, we're gonna do push-ups, we're gonna do squats, but I mean, yes, there's instruction, but how much instruction is there with that sometimes? And unless you're really working on progressive calisthenics and getting to like, one arm push-ups, single leg squats, all that.
Uh-huh.
So ended up going with an old thing I had put together that I've, a portion of what I call strength-led flexibility. And really it's just like a combination of yoga, functional movement patterns, primal flow patterns, and just really started rocking that a lot.
Nice. I was going to ask how you've had to sort of adapt the training style to
Yeah.
changing environment. Um, if I could circle back to your gym itself, I did want to ask you about Tao Health and Fitness as a name and what inspired that. I've read the Tao Te Ching, a couple different versions of it, and I was wondering if that was something that you were a practitioner of, or what was the history behind the name and its significance to your gym.
Well, I mean, basically, is I'm kind of big on the first thing that pops up is what I usually go with. It was the first name that popped into my mind, and I was like, well, let me play around with other names for a while, and nothing sounded or felt right. At that point, I had been training up until that point. For the most part, I've been training the better part of 12-ish or more hours a day, Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Qigong, studying. And that was pretty much my life. Just that, taking care of my kid. I'd have her literally, she'd either be with me or grandma or mom or strapped onto me, like in one of the carriers, and I'd still be training. And so, yeah, I've studied a few different things regarding Taoism, Buddhism, and it just felt like it was the thing to do as far as the name.
Okay, cool. Do you incorporate those Taoist type mental philosophies into the training, or was it sort of just a personal thing for you and your martial arts?
Personal thing for me, but at the same time, there's all kinds of little lessons like that pop up in the classes,
Yeah.
Not necessarily, planned out or anything. It just happens,
Yeah, cool. So what is the focus of your gym? Because I think a lot of people that might be watching this aren't really familiar with what an unconventional gym is. And
right.
You would definitely fall into that category from the stuff I've seen online. What is what is an unconventional gym, and what do you guys do differently that separates yourself from what you'd see in a boot camp or a traditional class at like a rec center or something?
Yeah. Well, I pretty much look at it as, again, like putting everything into progressions. Looking at somebody walks in the door and taking it, let's say they've got, not much experience training, or they've had injuries, or they've gone through rehab, and taking it from literally, you could even say like ground zero to just as far as they want to go. So I look at it as a progressional manner. I also, given some of my history, I had, not to go too far into it, but I had a spinal impact injury on C2 years back, and I literally had to start over on pretty much everything. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, it was just, I had to reverse engineer from where I was and where I wanted to be all the way back to where I am, and start looking at how do I get through this stage and the next stage to progress, mm-hmm. get to it. So I've worked a lot with people on, again, they've had injuries, or they've had surgeries, or they're trying to avoid surgery, mm-hmm. done rehab, maybe it didn't work. And how do we reprogram, for example, how your hip core connection is, or how your shoulder actually is balanced with mobility and stability. So we spend a lot of time doing that. And even when we look at some of the strongman classes, I've taken it and looked at, all right, you got a low back issue, but you really want to be moving heavy weight, you want to be doing stuff. What exercises can we do, and what order can we go? What progression can we go to actually reprogram how your core is connecting in that way to get rid of that?
Yeah. What kind of exercises and movements would you start people with because most people probably at some level could use a little bit of that movement retraining. Most people are so sedentary or don't go to the gym ever. So
right.
Where would you start, and what were your go-to things for most people, or advise most people watching this and might want to try at home, things they should look at too?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to, let's say, again, if you're like hip core connection was off, because we do a screening process, and when someone comes in to see where the weakest link is, and let's just say it was like your hip core connection was off. You might do something as simple as, obviously some foam rolling, maybe get a lacrosse ball, get in there, try to soften up the tissue, see what happens. And we test in between each exercise to see if you're having positive results, or if your body's learning from it, or if it's, actually something you shouldn't maybe be doing. And if you're trying to reprogram, but something simple, you might do ankle circles. You got one leg out, one leg up, 5 ankle circles each direction, bring the leg down, trick the hamstring into loosening up, and now all of a sudden your hip core connection actually has a better chance to fire.
Okay.
Mentioning like our 3Dex strong classes where we get a little more of the strongman type stuff going. I break that down into like 3 sections: workload, capacity, explosive power, and then speed and agility. And so usually everybody starts at workload capacity. And so let's say we do that, and yeah, they got some low back stuff that they're working through. Something simple, we're loading up the weight sled. Loading up the weight sled, getting them, making sure they got a good posture for the weight sled, not trying to run it like you see a lot of times in videos online or YouTube. They're just like, go, go, go. We're actually looking at like foot placement and, you know, position. What's cool is it's actually helping them, whether they're doing deadlifts yet or not, it's helping them actually correct their position for the deadlift at the same time.
What do you mean by workload capacity? Just how much bit load that their body can take before their movement patterns start to break down?
Well, workload capacity, I forget where I came up with that exactly. I think that might have came through some reading regarding John Brookfield, maybe, because I was coming up with thoughts about, you know, I don't want extreme endurance. I don't want extreme strength. I want both. And then I was reading some stuff. I believe it was through John Brookfield. He was talking about workload capacity, and basically, if you do things progressively with the weight and progressively with the time, you're going to actually go in both directions. You may not hit the extreme of each, but you're going to continue to grow in both directions. So something simple as, let's say, farmer's carry, right? Let's just say we're going to do a farmer's carry, and I can go, you know, as heavy as I can and maybe walk a figure eight or something, right? Or walk a straight line even. But how long can I do that? And I'm going to get tired, right? So I could go really light and go for a very long time, but where's that middle spot where it's like, hey, it's a good amount of work, but I can walk for an hour, right?
Yeah.
And you think about like farm boy strength, right? They're baling hay.
Yeah.
And maybe the sun went down, the day is over, but I still have hay to bale tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
They're taking breaks when they need to, not wearing things out, but they're also working pretty darn hard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of along the lines, if that makes sense, right?
No, it does. That analogy makes a lot more sense. So as you say that you don't really train dedicated cardio or dedicated strength, that you try to find work for your clients that trains both simultaneously?
Pretty much. I mean, people would ask at one point, when are we going to work cardio? And the people that stuck with me, we still aren't working cardio, so to say. But they joke around like, hey, Matt, when are we going to work cardio? Ha ha, because they're getting it either way. You look at the weight, how we do it. Almost everybody comes back huffing and puffing. And by the time we're adding weight and they're still going for the same amount of rounds. And it's kind of crazy how much weight sometimes they'll get to pushing. So,
yeah. Do you know who Dr. Doug McGuff is?
I've heard the name.
He wrote Body by Science. He's an emergency room physician and a fitness researcher on the side. But he hates the cardio myth. You use that word, and he drives him crazy because he's like, there's no way to move your body in any capacity and not work your heart. And so, I mean, just by nature of moving weight, you're moving limbs, under stress, your heart is expanding. You don't need to go run on a treadmill. Yeah, if you want to burn calories, go walk while you watch TV. But if you want to really work your heart, if you weightlift right or train right, you're going to work your heart. You don't need to go and train for a marathon, you know. But a lot of people still believe that myth that, oh, if I miss the treadmill day or the elliptical for 2 weeks, my heart's going to shrink or something.
Well, that's two things about that come to mind is that, if your training is really dialing in, you miss a couple of weeks, even if you're like something crazy happens in life, there's a lot of craziness been going on in Texas, the snowstorm that came and all that, that knocked out like 2 weeks for most people or more. And, your training should not, all of a sudden, hey, I lost everything because I had a couple of weeks off. You should come back stronger if you're really, really doing it, And the funny thing, you mentioned that like marathons and all that, I don't train for running either. It's like, I can run, but I don't train for running.
Yeah.
That's just my thing. I know some people really love it and dig it, and that's cool.
Yeah. As far as a hobby goes, but primarily running is a skill like anything else. You think you should do it for the sake of, so you can do it, so you don't lose it or get hurt when you want to do it. But just in my opinion, there are far more important things you should do if you only have 1 or 2 days a week to train your body than going out and running 5 miles. And I guess with that said, like if for the average person, what, in your opinion, what are like the 5 most important things that everybody should try to check off their list every week? If they're limited on time, if you had to say, oh, you only have time to do this one thing or 1 or 2 things, what would you tell them to do?
Oh man. All right. Well, then I would go lymphatics. Do something for your lymph, which we have protocols in place for that. I would go. Geez, that's a tough one. Only 5 things, huh? So,
or you could pick your top 2. So you said lymphatic. So maybe you could list out 3, and then we can talk about each one.
Yeah, I'd go lymphatic. I'd go carries, and I would do deadlifts.
Okay.
If you're looking at that you only got like 3 things to pick, I would go with that.
Yeah, you got an hour for the whole week. Yeah. So I guess lymphatics, that's an interesting one. What do you mean by lymphatic training, and what kind of things can people do to circulate their lymph?
Right. So, the lymph is pretty simple. It's just a matter of doing it. So there's 5 stages that I was taught. I don't know if you're familiar with Doc Perry Nicholson.
No, never heard of him.
So anyway, one of the guys I've been fortunate to train with, but heavy on the lymph. And so you look at like tapping certain areas, right? We're tapping certain areas, and then we'll do some jumping. Simple. It gets the lymph flowing and going. Okay. And there's progression to it. Obviously, it's like we have lymph 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and each one's getting a little deeper into the lymphatic system. And so doing that before, let's say, body work, you're going to get massage, cupping, acupuncture. You're going to do some foam rolling even on your own. You have a higher rate of success. Even in the martial arts, it's like we do iron body, we're hitting things, we're hitting our arms on trees or whatever. Well, I don't want the lymph to get blocked up. You're going to have bloating and swelling in most cases if you do. And so doing the lymph before and after something like that can be very helpful. And when it comes to the lymph, you look at, you have people that are type 1, type 2, you could say. And type 1, you'd be looking at, think about like a road that you're driving on, but the road's falling apart. Okay. Type 2 would be a traffic jam. So you got a traffic jam and you're going to keep adding more cars to the traffic jam. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. The guy's sitting there at the green light playing on his phone. Yeah. That's kind of one way to think about it. So if someone's a type 2, they're going to have bloating and swelling. If someone's type 1, they're going to basically have trouble gaining muscle. They're going to be kind of wiry, right? And the cool thing is how do you change your lymph? If it's 1 or 2, it's the same treatment either way. You're still going to do the tapping. You're still going to do the jumping. If you're, for example, having trouble gaining muscle, do your tapping, do your jumping, and then you're going to train your weights or your body weight or whatever it is that you're into. Yeah. And you have, a higher success rate. Now you also start to look at certain foods or herbs that you may or may not be taking that may be affecting your lymph as well. You look at like a type 2 person, to give you an example, no coffee, no turmeric, there's certain things that you don't want to have in your system. It's going to just add cars to the traffic jam. Even though we've been told, like turmeric's very healthy, and it can be depending upon where your lymph's at. So the idea is,
I wouldn't be surprised. I drink way too much coffee, and I feel like I can tell when I've overdone it because I can smell the coffee coming out of me. And I just assume that that's coming out of lymph glands where it's trying to work its way out of my body. Anyways, it's kind of a good indication. I think some people don't realize that some things, even like their body odor, might be an indication that I got a lymph clog somewhere.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think maybe you could take a step back and just explain what the lymph system is and why it's important to do the things that you're talking about, because a lot of people might not be aware that this is an important part of their health hygiene.
Well, basically, when you look at the lymph, right? If you have a lymphatic problem, you've got an immune system problem. If you have a lymphatic problem, you've got a circulatory problem. You've got, all kinds of stuff. Because basically, when your lymph is not flowing and going, you look at it as 90% water, 10% toxins. But if that ratio is way off, you're not getting enough water, too much coffee, right? Yeah. You're not getting enough water, or your body is not able to, therefore, then filter out some of those toxins. The liver's going to be getting overworked.
Uh-huh.
Now, getting overworked, then you look at gallbladder, you start looking at kidneys, you start looking at spleen, all these things start getting overworked because your lymph is literally backing up. So, and if you have something like, type 1, where, like I said, it's like a road that's falling apart, the path is falling apart. Well, at that point, you've got lymph leaking into the tissue. Right. So now you got lymph leaking into the tissue. You look at, same thing with when you start talking about like type 2, bloating and swelling. You're just sitting there taking those vessels and they're swelling too.
Yeah.
At what point, and people go in and, oh, I'm sore and I got pain and I'm going to foam roll my, my side or my legs or whatever. And maybe you're pushing too hard, pushing too deep. You can burst those vessels to some degree. You can cause, again, leakage, which you're not going to want. So really the main importance is detoxing, getting those toxins out, and having that lymphatic system going is pretty important. You look at, the gut, the neck, there's just so much lymph just in those two areas alone.
Yeah.
And you start looking at photos of lymphatic system, right? And man, there's tons. I think Doc Perry said something crazy, like if you took your lymphatic system out and stretched it all the way out, it would wrap the globe like 4 times or something crazy.
I like to massage below my jawline.
Right, exactly.
Dr. Robert Kussar talk about, most of the stuff that's in our body obviously goes through our mouths and it goes through the soft tissues.
Right.
And the first place it's going to absorb and fill up is through here,
Right.
And these lymph nodes, you get sick, you can massage them and sort of squeeze them out. And that's about the only thing I do regularly, but I notice a big difference, especially if I start getting a sore throat or feeling sick, massaging those lymph glands and trying to move the tissue, the fluid out of it.
Well, that's the cool thing about it is that, you'll start to notice the tender areas. You'll start to notice spots that you can massage through and all that. And, like I was mentioning, if the guy's sitting there at the green light playing on his phone, well, and you're like way back in the traffic jam and you're trying to move, you still got the guy on the phone to get out of the way. Right.
Yeah.
So that might be helping you, but would be even cooler and maybe faster for you is we think about it this way. There's an order to it, right? It's like, I'm going to get that guy going first. All right. Then this one can move, start going through. And then we can get into this and there's freedom for it to actually move.
Yeah.
Because you might be squeezing by, you might be getting it to move, but you might be having to be like, bumping into some other cars along the way.
So even if you squeeze it out of here, if you're stuck somewhere else, it's just going to go down to the next traffic jam and stop. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's that, or you're working really hard to squeeze it through, which means the heart's pumping really hard to try to, because the heart's, obviously going to be pumping through there.
Cool. So the second thing you mentioned was carries. What kind of thing, what kind of carrying would you recommend people do?
Yeah.
Regularly?
Well, to go in a figure 8 pattern with any carry, if possible, because then you're hitting straight lines, you're hitting all your turns, right?
Yeah.
And easy to measure. It's like, hey, I did 3 figure 8s through this area, whatever, or however many. When it comes to carries, farmers carries is a great way to start for most people. Just pick it up and walk, right? It's like carrying home the groceries or something, right? Nice and easy. Go for time, and as heavy as you can handle for that time, really. And then 6-point carry. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically you'd be looking at an overhead carry. Obviously my arm can't extend with this
with a kettlebell,
Bronco.
right?
Yeah, take a kettlebell overhead, boom. Second position in the rack, third position down at the side, just like farmers carry, right? But it's just a single kettlebell, because your break is from overhead, your break is here. From here, your break is here. You're too tired, your break is the other side. Overhead, boom, and back down.
Okay.
So how much weight can you handle for the next 30 minutes or hour, right? That might be your whole workout.
Yeah. We have a really old video. I think it's like 4 years old, where Jim Smith went through most of those.
Cool.
And I'll link that up so people can see an example of what that looks like. But my favorite is to do a bottoms up carry.
Yep.
Because it sort of challenges your coordination, your balance.
Yes. It,
Or,
yes.
it's not something you would just want to start with, but
Yeah.
yeah. Or a waiter's carry, holding the
Yeah.
kettlebell, just
Yeah.
on my hand, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. We usually, when it comes to the 6-point carry, we'll do a bottoms up press, right? Just
Uh-huh.
flip it upside down, press it, you know, whatever weight you can press overhead, bottoms up. That's usually where we'll start someone.
Okay. Cool.
Those 6, right?
Yeah. So I take it kettlebell is your favorite implement.
When it comes to weights, usually so.
Yeah. Is there what is in your opinion, what's the advantage of a kettlebell over a barbell or a dumbbell or?
I mean, I'm sure you heard before about that off-centered gravity. I like that off-centered gravity. I
Mhm.
like the variety. There's so much you can do with it.
Mhm.
You know, geez, it just pretty darn useful. I mean, we can use it for corrective exercises, just building strength through like slow grinding movements, you know, like pressing and things like that. You got your carries, you got, you know, explosive power with swings and all kinds of other stuff. So pretty fun.
Do you ever train or any kettlebell sport folks, or have you done
Not
any of that stuff?
any kettlebell sport people.
Okay, yeah, the kettlebell community kind of seems to be broken into two:
Usually
kettlebell
so.
sport, power, explosive folks, and then the unconventional,
Mhm.
functional side of things. Yeah, like you said, training it for movement patterns and strength.
Yeah. I've played some sports here and there, but I rarely train sport.
Yeah, nice.
So,
Okay, and the third thing you mentioned were deadlifts.
yeah.
Why would you put that in the top three for most people?
Well, I've seen huge benefits for myself and pretty much almost I can't think of a person I haven't seen benefits for
Yeah.
from working those deadlifts, especially really going through and patterning the deadlift, let alone if we spend time, for example, like I was saying about the hip core connection,
Yeah.
going through cleaning up as much as we can from, you know, from the feet up to the hip to the core and really getting a lot of neurological patterning going and then throwing in the deadlift. Usually it's a big win.
And would you start people deadlifting with a kettlebell or a barbell or a trap bar? Or where do you start with
So
your client?
far, I've started with kettlebell. You know, some of the guys have gotten to the point where we played with the barbell for a little bit, but a lot of times once we get to a point to where our kettlebells have, you know, they've hit the max weight. A lot of times we'll just go to double kettlebells.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's my the way I like to do it is I like the kettlebell because I can almost stand inside them like a trap bar with
Yeah.
a neutral grip, and I don't have to feel like I'm so leaning so far over like I do with a barbell.
Yeah. Exactly.
I also like the fact that you could train one side at a time, like a suitcase deadlift or
Right.
something.
Oh
Something
yeah.
more that mimics a real life pickup.
Yep.
I'd never pick up a piece of furniture with my palms facing me, like a couch, you're always going to have them turned away. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's a little bit more realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the uneven lifts with the kettlebells, all that stuff. It's pretty fun.
Um, so what have you seen to be related to COVID? Like what was the most dramatic impact you saw with your clients? What was the first thing that started to go away after not being in the gym training with you?
Oh geez. I don't know. I mean, I think it was just like really everybody, you know, we were all used to seeing each other all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really the hardest part, I think, for everyone was that, I mean, I saw, geez, I don't know, probably like 50 ish people every week as
Yeah.
far as on multiple times, you know, because usually
Mhm.
most people were coming 3 days or 2 days a week.
Yeah.
Some of them, some of them, you know, 4 and 5 days a week. So, seeing it, all of us seeing each other all the time. I mean, we're pretty close. You know, a lot of my students have trained with me for several years, so we're all pretty close. And it was kind of like, hey, we're all family, and we're not seeing each other very much at all.
Yeah. The
So I
human.
think the biggest thing I saw was just like a lot of FaceTime.
Uh-huh.
You know, a lot of FaceTime, checking in on each other,
Yeah.
uh, calls, especially in the beginning, because everybody was kind of panicked and not sure what to do and trying to keep healthy and training and trying to just, keep it together.
Yeah, the
Like,
mental impact was probably, I think goes without saying, is probably the most severe thing.
yeah,
Um, I noticed that the first thing I quit doing was flexibility and mobility training.
yeah,
It was something that I had space to do at the gym, and then I come home and all of a sudden I'm scrambling to manage life and do what little strength training I could at home.
right.
And I noticed those things fell off the to-do list pretty quick and
Yeah.
started losing it. And so I don't know if you saw your clients gaining a lot of weight, regressing in some of the things that you had been working on with them.
Yeah. I mean, it just like seriously, the training that we were doing compared to then online, it just was totally different. I mean, a lot of it was, at first I just went right into the strength led flexibility, kind of a yoga portion that I had put together a long time ago. I just went right into that because they could all do it at home.
Yeah.
And so kind of, I think the hard part for them was probably going to be that, hey, well, we're doing stuff, but it's all completely changed, and trying to stay motivated. And
Yeah.
oh, we're not supposed to leave our homes, and we're supposed to wear our masks, and people are wearing gloves, and you go to the grocery store and it's just like, that whole chaos.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was so much that I saw people gaining weight, but I still think, like we were just saying, I think it was just the whole mental aspect of shock. I mean, because just like everywhere else, here was kind of crazy. I mean, I came to the gym every day as much as I could, and I live streamed from the gym, and just here. I mean, at the time I was living up north, and usually morning traffic, if I didn't leave at like 5 6 a.m., it was just you're stuck in traffic, and I having to dodge and weave on the bike and stuff. I could leave anytime I wanted. I could leave 10-15 minutes and just zoom through because there's no traffic, nobody's out.
Yeah.
It was made for some good bike riding though.
Texas has been one of the more open places. Are you guys back to pretty much 100% in person, back to normal, or are you still operating under some restriction?
I mean, there's some restriction. It's pretty open, but I mean, it's definitely not normal yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still, everybody's still masked up. Everything's still, pretty cautious.
Yeah, we're here in Colorado, and we've just started going back to, I think we're in blue. But if you go to the gyms are still appointment only.
Yeah.
A lot of high traffic equipment is still, roped off, do not use.
Right.
And so it still feels a little weird. There's,
Mm-hmm.
you get a big giant gym and 5 people in the whole place,
Yeah.
for every
Exactly.
half hour or something. It's weird. You don't want to look at anybody. You don't want to talk to anybody. The TVs are off. There's no sound. It's like a library. It's a odd environment, from the buzzing place that it used to be.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's why, for example, like almost all our classes I'm doing outside at this point.
Yeah.
That way, this whole thing of like only so many people allowed in the gym, and this has to happen and that has to happen. Hey, guess what? We're outside, and a lot of times we're not using any equipment, and unless it's again the strongman class where we're taking it, or the kettlebell class where we're taking the stuff out, and
Yeah.
Otherwise outside, and it's kind of nice. I mean, I don't mind being in the sun.
Oh yeah, I love it, man. That's the only thing that survived here through COVID was outdoor sports.
Yeah.
But luckily for my kids, all aside from basketball, they play baseball year round, and so that at least that wasn't taken away from them. But everything else in life, dramatically changed for a while. But hopefully, we're around in a corner and we'll get back to normal here shortly.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to normal. I mean, it'd be nice to just get back to having classes as usual. Workshops.
Yeah.
I mean, I had quite a few workshops, both here as well as traveling that I was planning on teaching, and then boom, COVID hit, and that was that.
The most frequent thing I saw that you'd post online usually was like a poster or flyer for an event that you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those in quite a while.
Yeah. I decided I was like, most of the stuff that I'm doing is outside right now currently, so whatever, I'm just going to start doing my workshops, and people are either going to come or they're not. I'm not traveling, unfortunately. But yeah, we did kung fu stances and footwork and strength led flexibility, a good morning routine, all based on like rotations, just to like get synovial fluids for the joints, some simple stuff that everybody can do.
So your workshops are usually very micro focused on just a couple skills, or?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, to give an example, some of the mantis boxing stuff that I'm planning on doing here soon. One of the workshops is just looking at like the jab, how to make it very effective, and start going into some of my striking theories and stuff that I've kind of put together over the years of training and whatnot.
Oh, okay. So there is a martial arts component to your gym beyond mobility, strength, flexibility.
Absolutely. Back when, like I said, I had a spinal injury and trying to get back, my thoughts were, okay, how do I get back to my Kung Fu? Mm-hmm. And so that's where I started reverse engineering everything and training, basically looking at different systems I'd been studying, because I was already studying, looking at like, how do I make my Kung Fu better? Well, what's missing? Hey, I feel imbalanced here. Like something's off. Something's kind of tight here. What do I do to change it? How do I connect better? Right. And so luckily I was already studying, and all that stuff actually helped me to help myself. But in the process of reverse engineering everything, that's kind of how the Tao Health and Fitness came to be. I mean, literally I was just fixing myself, and, Kung Fu brother was like, hey, I got this ankle thing. Mm-hmm. Can you have that? And I'm like, okay. And then, oh, I got the shoulder thing. Okay. And I literally had, it was like, what was it? 4 days before rent was due, and I had $40 because I hadn't been working or nothing. I had been injured. Uh-huh. And I was like, I'm going to start the gym this time. Announced that I was teaching, and luckily 9 people signed up in the 4 days, and that's kind of where it kept going. But like I was saying, originally it all came about because I was studying to get my Kung Fu to a higher level, and then at that point using that to rehab myself.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, hey, just looking at the time, it looks like we're short on getting close to an end here. What advice would you provide? Would you give folks that are starting to navigate the end of COVID, and where can? So I guess 2-part question, and then how can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, as far as navigating COVID, I guess, the first question, just start training. If you're not training, please start training. Take care of yourself, get out in the sun, do your training, put in your time. I would highly recommend the lymphatic system, obviously. Look at your water, your food, lowering your stress, all those things, right? But it all plays a part. As far as finding out more information, you can follow us on Instagram, just under Tao Health and Fitness. You got taohealthandfitness.com. That is, where you're going to find all the class information and whatnot. Hopefully at some point I'll actually get around to putting up a blog, get articles written and all that. But currently just been busy running those classes.
Cool. Well, I'll link everything up for you. If somebody wanted to, are you still doing virtual stuff online? If somebody checked out your gym and they're not in Austin and wanted to work with you, could they find you and do it?
Absolutely. Because everything that I've done online, I basically have sectioned off and have saved it all, right? So everything that I did online with the students has been saved. So you have, Tai Chi, you got some Kung Fu, you've got strength-led flexibility, quite a few things, a lot of primal flow patterns. And really what I'm going to be doing in the near future is slowly start recording very, very specific progressions and getting those on the website so people can just sign up right away for whichever classes they want.
Oh, cool. And since we talked so much about the lymph system, are there anything that you recommend people read or individuals you think people should follow regard to that?
If you're going to follow anybody regarding the lymph, look at Doc Perry, Stop Chasing Pain on Instagram. He's posting all the time, and it's great stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen him post the full lymphatic stuff as far as what order to go in, but he's always posting little bits here and there to get you, looking into it, get the wheels spinning and thinking about it. So,
okay. Do you ever use any of those self-torture devices you see in the yoga part, like the yoga section of the sporting goods store? I've seen this like mallet on a stick that supposedly you could beat yourself with
yeah.
to loosen things up.
All right. So if you look back on the Instagram, one of the students, he's been having some issues with his collarbone, kind of like collarbone area, the whole little shoulder girdle, really. And he's having some issues through here. And, I was just like, hey, you know what? You mind if I slap you around a little bit? He's like, no, it's fine. So I have him lift his arm. I'm just slapping the hell out of his ribs. And then it's, hey, it feels better, like a good amount. But you also look at, where the spleen is, and you look at the spleen in connection to the lymphatic system again, right? So there's one thing, but I've also taken literally, I've got all my tools here because I'm working on my bike, working on the Bronco, things like that. So literally the one day I also just pulled out the rubber mallet. It was just like, all right, whack, whack, whacking somebody, or let them whack themselves with it, right? Seems to be beneficial.
Do you ever use any Gua Sha, those scraping tools? You like that?
I have. I didn't have the scraping tools. This was some time ago, but I did have a dull butter knife and some arnica oil. So I was just like, scrape it out.
Yeah.
As long as using the dull side, no pain really with it. It's not necessarily comfortable, but so yeah, I've done some Gua Sha, cupping, quite a few things.
I love those. I'm not sure that they necessarily move lymph or just move a lot of blood, but I also have a neck injury from a car accident, and my physical therapy was pretty much intense scraping and cupping for about 9 months, to the point where I would be severely bruised when the PT was done with me. Which I was surprised. I thought maybe we'd do some exercises or stretching, and this guy is just beating me up. And it was the same thing. It was like, we need to move all this stagnant blood and fluid in your neck and get it to circulate, get oxygen in there.
Yeah, the Gua Sha, luckily I had someone do it for me at one point instead of me just doing it to myself, which was helpful. But also we decided, you know what, there's enough that needs to happen right now. And this was some time back. I was, pretty bad shape after that injury, and sometime back. And literally we scraped out pretty much my whole backside. I did a toe touch. So I'm in a stretched position and scraped through my back and everything, through my hamstrings. Did a full bridge and scraped out the front side.
Yeah.
Hung off a bar and twisted. So I'd get a nice stretch and a twist and scraped along the rotational line. Oh my goodness. That was the best, worst experience with Gua Sha ever. But it was helpful. Yeah. It was helpful. But oh my God, I'm at once as far as the full body like that.
Yeah.
So
right on. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Matt. Sorry again, it took us so long to get connected.
No worries.
But if you are in the Austin area and you're checking out this video, please make sure you go out and visit Matt's gym. Consider signing up and training with him. Matt is one of our newest reps for Wild Warrior Nutrition. So if you're in the Austin area and you want to pick up some pine pollen or grass-fed testicle or any of our other products, they're available at Matt's gym also. So you can just stop in and get those there as well. But Matt, I hope you have a good week. I hope you guys warm up, and hope the COVID is a distant memory for you guys, and much success.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
good time.
No problem, man. Anytime. If you ever want to come back, you got a workshop or anything you want to talk about, you can just let me know. We can set something up.
Sounds good.
All right, man. You have a great day. We'll see you later.
All right. See you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.